Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryang karavavahe, tejasvina vadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Arjuna was overpowered by fear, or he experienced fear when he saw Parameshwara as the mouth, the time, which was eating, swallowing his dear close ones. This means the time that destroys through the course of time. So then he asked, Lord, seeing your mouth, that means your time, is swallowing all of these people, I thought you were the compassionate one, but now I see all of this destruction. So who are you, Lord? And then Krishna answered, he said, Arjuna, it's not a matter of having compassion or not having compassion, because Lord is not an entity with personal likes and dislikes. He's not a jiva who says, I'm going to be compassionate towards him and I'm going to not be compassionate towards her. Instead, God's compassion is in the form of dispensing karma palam, matching exactly what each person does. So this means if I go up to you with a smile, I say namaste, and I acknowledge you, then you will feel compelled to reply in the same way. Whereas if I respond in a unfriendly manner, then you will have no choice unless you're seeing my behavior as inappropriate, but you will still respond accordingly to how I am responding to you. So this means there's a 1-to-1 ratio to what kind of actions we put out into the field and what kind of results we receive directly. So in reference to us, me and you, it means that when karma palam, this means the fruits of our actions, when they're unpleasant, learn to see it as an exhaustion. This is one way to cope with these unpleasant situations. So it's a purification process. Whereas, for example, suppose a doctor gives you a untasting syrup. It doesn't taste well. And he says, take it. And you take it and you go, oh, this is just disgusting. But even if it's disgusting, it is still used to purify the gross body. It's still used to take out the toxins from the physical body. So in that same way, sometimes when we do receive these unpleasant situations, then we can look at it in the same way. Even though it is unpleasant, it is still purifying me because it's causing me to learn how to respond to what I'm being confronted with right now. So this means that our prayers, knowing this, they change from wanting to stop unpleasant situations coming into the future, because we discussed last week, it's not possible. The prarabdha karma is going to come one way or the other. Yes, we can minimize it through prayashchitta, through prayer, but we cannot depend on prayer all our life to, kind of take out the unpleasantness. So rather, where do our prayers go? What energy do we use our prayers on? So we simply say, may I receive the strength, the courage to change my perspective when it does come, so that I can maturely handle those unpleasant situations. So the prayer can be something like, may I have the strength to embrace undesirable results which can't be changed. And may I have the capacity to learn from them so that I may become a wiser human being. Also, if we don't embrace this prarabdha, and what is prarabdha? It just means that the results of past actions are being presented to me right now in the present. That is prarabdha karma. If we don't embrace that prarabdha karma, then what happens is we start to say, what have I done to deserve this? It's a common phrase. Hey, what have I done to deserve this? The fact is, we don't even remember what we did 8 years ago, let alone what happened lifetimes ago. So this means from this bigger picture, holding this bigger vision, it's not about trying to analyze what have I done, and why do I deserve this? Because the mind is too limited to even connect all of the dots. So rather, that's why I say, look at it what is coming to me. Now it is here. Let's face it intelligently. In fact, even Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata, even though he is the embodiment of Dharma, he's a Dharma Raja, he was constantly confronted with unpleasant situations. Even Dharma, the king of Dharma, is experiencing a life that is confronting and not so smooth as one would like it to be, which means what? Some papams are simply incurable. That's why I say the prayers that we can use is say, yes, some unpleasant papams will come or situations will come. May I have the capacity and the strength to deal with them and not go off track. Let me, still hold my center and think clearly when they do come. Because it is much easier to get prepared before it actually comes. Because when it comes, it's too late. And you notice from your own experience. Then the mind's already, drawing itself, it's sucked into the situation. So this means all of the preparation comes before it actually does arise in real life. So the conclusion is, by accepting or recognizing that prarabdha karma cannot be stopped and it is perfectly matching 1-to-1 ratio, then you recognize that there's no such thing as injustice in this world. Even the so-called cheaters, if you want to call them, who maybe, who you think, well, they're getting their way, right? They're cheating in the financial markets, or they're doing some black hat marketing, right? Even that will have some results in the future called papa karma. So this means no one can get away from this one total system, which is the one who provides this karma. So this means if we do accept this, then the fear of future transforms into devotion of the present. Because what is fear of the future? Not accepting prarabdha karma. But now, yes, Robert, you wanted to say, what is fear of the future?
I was just going to say what you said, basically not accepting what is.
Exactly. So in other words, I'm not holding the bigger vision. So, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The fact is that we just said, prarabdha karma will take its course and there's nothing a person can do about it. All that we can do is when it does come, that's when your power lies. So this now means I can embrace the future gladly. And if I embrace the future, now my energy can go into devotion of the present. So this means devotion of the present is not possible if my mind is in the future. And where is the mind in the future? If I do not embrace the fact that prarabdha karma is taking its course. Okay, now let's revise time. This is a slightly different topic. We said that time, the principle of time itself, so far time is 15 minutes went by. So this is, what is time? Duration. So we said that time is not separate from any object. For example, if I say, what is this? You say it is a pen. Why are you saying it's a pen? Because it has a duration. You see it, it's lasting. If I showed it so quickly, you didn't even see it, you say, what, right? What is that? So this means time equals duration, that which is sustained. So this means time and object are inseparable. Wherever there is time, because I'm observing this object, that's exactly where object is. So time and objects are inseparable. And not only that, but this object occupies space. Therefore, what is occupies space? It's accommodated by space. So therefore, time, space, and object are never apart. They are actually one and the same, given three different names from different standpoints. I call this pen from the standpoint of form, color. I call this time from the standpoint of duration. I call this space from the standpoint of that which is accommodating this object. So time, space, and form are inseparable, which means it is impossible to say, just think about this. Suppose you say, when was time created? When was time created?
you can't ask that question.
Exactly, exactly. So in other words, the question's coming from wrong, incorrect logic, flawed logic. This means whoever created time was himself in time. But wait a minute, I said who created time? It implies that time wasn't there, right? So, God created time at 8 p.m. Then what was there at 7:59? So you can see how the question itself exposes the flawed thinking. So this means sometimes we don't answer the question because to answer the question is to support the flawed logic. So this means that, again, time is never created because you cannot create time. I just explained the logic. It means that time always existed. And since time, space, and object, that means the universe, are inseparable, as just shown with this example, it means that everything already exists, either in potential or in manifest. So the entire universe is time, space. When I say universe or jagat, it is time, space, forms, and orders and laws which govern the relationship between all of them. For example, let's take physical laws. Suppose I'll give you one single statement. Water boils when it reaches a certain temperature. Water form boils when time reaches a certain temperature. What is temperature? Thermodynamics. So water form is interacting with time, interacting with boiling, which is thermodynamics. So time, space, object, and laws are all working together just in one single statement. Water boils when it reaches a certain temperature. Why does it boil at 100 degrees and not 98? Because that in itself is a law. And then what happens when it boils? It transforms from state of liquid into a state of gas, from water into air. That in itself is another law and order. So we can see all across the board, there are laws, orders, forms, time, space, all working in one unison. And then we have law of dharma. What is law of dharma? You can look at it as a music or the orchestra of manifestation. Just like if you go to an orchestra right now, and I love orchestras, by the way, they have like, you're sitting up there and everyone's doing their swadharma, someone's playing a piano, someone's playing a violin, everyone's so engrossed. And all of these people who are doing their swadharma so beautifully create one big orchestra with order, and you enjoy this order. If one person goes out of tune, everyone notices. So in that same way, dharma is like an orchestra, working in perfect tune, in perfect orchestra, 24/7, sustaining this entire universe. Now, what does this mean for in terms of practical living, like you and I, like living today? It means that because we are constantly surrounded by time, space, forms, and laws, which I just explained, which are not separate from Bhagavan, then there's no question of asking, can I have a darshanam of God, please? I know one retreat, by the way, in India, I'm not going to mention the name. They charge you to have a darshanam of God. And there's a special darshanam. So this, the regular darshanams, I think they're about 5,000 rupees. The special darshanams are about 10,000 rupees. So this means, if you want like a bigger vision of God, then you just have to pay more money. This is normal, right? Why can we not say, can I have a darshanam of God? Because we are never not having vision of Bhagavan. All around us, we're surrounded by time, space, objects, and laws and orders, bringing them all together constantly, unceasingly. So there's no question of looking for Bhagavan out there in a Himalaya, in my meditation, in some special technique, waiting for the future, because I am never away from what is true right now. The moment we understand this fact, that the universe is never, or that I am never away from the universe and universe is never away from Bhagavan, this is called bhakti, devotion. What is devotion? Having a mature mind. What does this mean, having a mature mind? I am never not experiencing anything other than Ishvara. That's why Arjuna, once he realized this, through his Divya Chakshuhu given to him by Shri Krishna, he was overwhelmed with devotion. What else did we see? We've seen that Arjuna was not essential or is not essential, this is what Krishna is showing, for Karna, Bhishma, Drona, and Duryodhana to die by his arrows. Arjuna thinks he's essential, but he is not essential. Why is he not essential? Because these warriors on the Kaurava side, by the mere fact of their past irresponsibility, they're already dead. Arjuna just happened to be in that position to carry out their inevitable fate because he's a Kshatriya. But then where does the conflict come? When does the conflict come? It comes when a duty is presented to me. That means I have to attend to something, but then I color them with my likes and dislikes. I say, I can't do this because X, Y, Z. Then we give ourselves a reason and then we justify. For example, imagine this right now. Imagine you're a judge. Easy to listen to. Let's see how much we understand. Imagine you're a judge and you're a judge who, a powerful position, and a murderer walks in, right? And they're serious offense. And there's no way they're getting anything other than the jail. And it's your son. You're a judge and you go, okay, I've got a murder case, and you're surprised, you're shocked, it's your son. Now, what does your duty say? I need to tell him to go to jail or even execution. Suppose it's execution. But what does your inner likes and dislikes say? The whole story of relationship, of emotions, it's not so easy. I mean, it's easy to talk about, but if you really confront it, you see what position Arjuna is in right now. So this means, what does this mean in context of being an instrument of what is meant to happen? It means, number one, assess the situation that is presented to me and act accordingly. This is called swadharma. What is swadharma? Responding intelligently to what is being presented to me right now. That's swadharma. For example, in the Ramayana, the monkeys, it's a nice story, the monkeys carried rocks to Ravana's distant land over the ocean because they're powerful monkeys. But what do the squirrels do? They carry little pebbles. That means no matter how small that little insect or that little sentient being is, or how small we think we are, just like the squirrels carry those little pebbles to contribute to the Lord's work, which is Rama, they felt fulfilled. Why? Because they're doing the Lord's work. That's called swadharma. So this means even a person who is in a small position in this world, as long as they're doing their swadharma, they can be in a much better, more fulfilled position than one who is a president and is doing things that are out of alignment with dharma. So this means when we're doing our swadharma, no matter how small our position is, we cannot not be but fulfilled. And we have to discover that swadharma. How? As I said earlier, this conversation between Nina, is one of the things we can do is I can change our attitude. That means just like the squirrels, they're not saying, what am I doing? How is a small pebble going to make a big difference? So what is a squirrel doing? Doing whatever the squirrel can do. That means moving little pebbles. Okay, verse 36. Sthane hrishikesha tava prakirtya jagat praharshyat yanurajyate cha rakshamsi bhitani disho dravanti sarve namasyanti cha siddha sanghaha.
Arjuna said, It is proper, Hrishikesha, Krishna, that by singing your praises, the world rejoices and is devoted to you. The frightened Rakshasas run in all directions, and all the hosts of Siddhas salute you. By singing your praises, Tava Prakirtya, the world rejoices, Jagat Praharshyati. By singing and by hearing Bhagavan's glories, Shankara says, people in this world find great joy. It is but proper sthane. Arjuna is able to say this because he knows now that there is no excess in praising the Lord. Excess is only possible when the object of praise has limited knowledge, power, or virtues. If you say of someone that he is an ocean of compassion, just wait. There will be an occasion when he is not. He is compassionate, all right, but to say he is an ocean of compassion is an exaggeration. In praising any individual, there is always an element of flattery.
Continue.
But when there is no limit to the virtues, any amount of praise will not be excessive. On the contrary, any praise we offer to Bhagavan is going to be inadequate. From our limited knowledge, how much can we know of omniscience? Yet only if we know it can we really appreciate all knowledge and give our due praise. Since Bhagavan is always more than what our praises can convey, whatever we say, we will never be guilty of exaggeration. In such praise of Bhagavan, people discover joy, and it is but proper because Bhagavan is joy. Seeing your glory, one cannot but be happy, says Arjuna here.
And then skip the paragraph and go, he is an object of joy.
He is an object of joy, harsha, and devotion, anuraga. This is proper sthane. The other side of it is that those who do not follow dharma are afraid of him. It is also sthane. Those who go against the moral order, rakshamsi, are afraid, bhitani, and run away from you in all directions, disho dravanti.
Okay, it's enough.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas. Good reading. Arjuna's Vishwarupa experience so far consisted of wonderment and fear. Now, this verse is about the third stage, surrender. What is surrender? Owning up, as Robert was saying, to what is true. What is true? The one, all knowledge, all power, appearing as many. And this is the essence of Vishwarupa appreciation. That means it is the only way also to know oneself as Brahman. What is Brahman? Formless consciousness. How can you know formless consciousness? You can't, because it is formless. To know something means I have to perceive it. So the only way to understand Brahman is to know that by understanding that no name form is away from consciousness. If I understand that every name form resolves into consciousness, then my devotion to every name form is understanding consciousness. That's why Vedanta does not deny, by the way, the empirical world of mithya forms. Because your whole life is nothing but names and forms. Is that not true? From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, all our life is just names and forms. Even if we're trying to imagine something in our minds or have some kind of an experience, there is another name form. So this means that if I have discomfort or non-acceptance of this world, while saying Aham Brahmanasmi, then the understanding is still dominated by likes and dislikes. Hence, Arjuna says, I comprehend now, for this reason that I just explained, why Mahatmas means knowledgeable ones, wise people, are devotional in nature. Because their mind recognizes the presence of Ishvara in all names and forms. How can you not be devotional? That's why the devotional attitude actually reveals the understanding of one's knowledge of oneness. It's not their knowledge only, but it's their devotion. Because anyone can have knowledge, Aham Brahmanasmi. Anyone. That's the easy part. But the true one who actually knows this, how is this expressed, this knowledge, this Atmajnana, this self-knowledge? In the form of devotion. In fact, one of the weaknesses in the Western world is the devotion part. The Westerners are very good at capturing self-knowledge, Atmajnana, Brahma Vidya. But when it comes to devotion, like through everyday objects, that's a different story. It's like, I've never done this before. How do I devote? And what is devotion? So there's this discord. The Indians are much better at this. But in the Western world, it is not so, it's one of the weakest areas though. Arjuna also says, I comprehend now, Krishna, how distorted notions of reality produce anxiety, or how distorted notions create the need to continue the search. Why do they continue that search? Why does distorted notions do this? Because the mind with distorted notions attributes absolute reality to all objects. Therefore, everything becomes important. I've got a new technique for you. Oh, tell me. Another technique comes. Oh, I'm going to try this out. So everything becomes important. Why? Because I'm giving absolute reality to every single object. Always attending, busy with things. What are you busy with? Oh, just busy, just generally busy. This means by the absence of self-knowledge, everything becomes important. And then it says, Rakshamsi. This is mind with false notions of reality. The ones who have a mind with false notions of reality are fearful of Dharma. Why? Because it threatens one's shoulds and shouldn'ts. This is how things should happen. This is how things shouldn't happen. All these rules, the whole life is just dictated by shoulds and shouldn'ts. This is how she should act. This is what he should say. This is what she shouldn't say. This is what he should do. This is where we should go. This is where we shouldn't go. This is what we should read. This is what we should play. Hey, this is what we should watch. The whole life is like this. And such people with these distorted notions, what do? Constantly try to modify worldly experiences or worldly events to suit their comfort zone. So this means every moment has to suit my comfort zone. So what do? I manipulate, distort, use covert techniques or tactics to get my way. This is all out of alignment with Dharma. And such folks are also afraid of authority, like the police, or rebellious of the police. Love to hold protests against the police. Now, why would you be afraid of the police? Because if I'm afraid of the police, what does this mean? You tell me. If you're afraid of the police, what does that imply? Suppose you're just standing, doing your own business, and you see cops walking, and suddenly this fear comes like, oh, why does it come?
The status is intimidating.
Okay. So they're intimidating.
Like a threat for you.
Why would they be intimidating? Nagesh, you want to say?
The sense of separateness. You're separate from them, like you're two separate entities. You're not one.
Good. Okay. So what is this intimidation and not and separateness? What does it all imply? One thing that yes.
Past experience.
Good. Past. Good. Exactly what I want to say. So this means I'm carrying a memory of some unethical act that I've done in the past. Therefore, now when I see this dharmic principle confronting me, what happens? There's immediately fear because I'm carrying this thought of having done something that is clearly adharmic. So just by the mere act of having fear, that in itself says, I'm aware of something in me, which I'm carrying, which is clearly unethical and I haven't looked into it. Well, why would you be afraid of the police if you're an honest person? So in that same way, just like the Rakshasas are afraid of authority, like the police, they're also afraid of Parameshwaraha, who is Dharma Raja, the king of Dharma. Never mind the police, they're like local Dharma, but this is the king of Dharma. Therefore, Parameshwaraha, when I say I'm just talking about Ishwara, Bhagavan, just different names, becomes the source of fear or anxiety. That's why the word God, by the way, it immediately triggers so much emotional arguments. The moment you say God, oh God, this huge thing you just said, big thing now you just made. Because the person who heard it in themselves is living in state of conflict. Then, Dishaha Dravanti. How do these jivas with distorted notions escape Dharma, who is the Lord himself? By running away. How? Distraction, constant sense of achievement, like an overachiever, always doing, trying to make things happen, always growing, expanding business. It's always about expansion, very busy. keeping oneself busy. Physical activity, always moving one place to the other. So all of this is about running away. I don't want to confront what is facing me right now. So what I do, I distract myself temporarily. Siddha sanghaha sarve namasyanti. Those who embrace Dharma helplessly express it by the means of praising your glories through devotion, through reading the scriptures, by involving oneself in the Vedantic works. They also pray to boost their courage to maturely handle difficult times in the future, like job change, sickness, family disputes. All of these situations cannot be changed. And they pray to you, Lord, the one who is limitless knowledge, limitless power, to give them the courage to face these difficult events that are yet to come in the future. Kasmachate nanameran mahatman garishyase brahmanopyadikartre ananta devesha jagan nivasa twamaksharam sadasattat param yat.
O Lord of all gods, O the one in whom the world exists, and for what reason would they not salute you? You who is greater than other gods, you who is the primal, the first creator of even Brahma, Ananta, O the limitless one, that which is both cause and effect. Arjuna is not surprised that even the Siddhas salute the Lord, because he sees him as even greater than Brahma, the creator. Therefore he asks this question: why should they not offer their salutations unto you, who is greater than all gods and is the primal creator, Adikarta of even Brahma? When the Lord is the cause and the sustaining factor of even gods like Brahma, Indra, and so on, it is proper, sthane, for all those who know his glories to surrender to him. In other words, the Lord is the ultimate altar of surrender. Seeing one's own accomplishments as the glories of the Lord, one becomes objective and dispassionate in one's life.
Continue.
There is an ego, but it is so thin that it does not cause any discordance to the harmony between the individual and the world, which is all the glory of the Lord. This is the surrender which is yoga. The ultimate surrender of the ego is in the wake of the knowledge of the oneness of the Jiva and Ishvara revealed by such sentences as Samoham Sarva Bhutesu. I am the same in all beings.
Thank you.
Here knowledge and surrender are identical.
Okay, Arjuna says, Krishna, bhakti is instinctive for those who recognize the presence of all knowledge, all power in all names and forms. Look at, for example, science, like a science show, or biology or astronomy. So wonder, look at the stars, like a nature, National Geographic, right? You see animal kingdom and how they're all working in order. Lions are chilling out by the tree, waiting for an antelope to pass by. It's just a wonderment if you just, watch. I guess this is why people love to watch these shows, because it's just a wonder. Now, here's a quiz question for you. What's the difference between a scientist in wonder and a Vishwarupa Bhakta in wonder? What's the difference between a scientist in wonder and just a Bhakta in wonder?
The scientist doesn't have the vision of Ishvara.
Okay, good.
He's looking solely at the objective material world.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was going to say. So you're in line with my thinking. So the scientist stops at names and forms. In fact, they don't stop it. They just continue looking deeper into the names and forms, just as Thomas was saying, looking deeper into the objective world. Now, this in itself is an anxiety, right? You always want to find more. It's like you never take a break. It's like more, more, more. Whereas a bhakta, at every level of name and form, there's an ever-growing devotion. And what does this produce? What kind of a state of mind does this produce? Calmness, appreciation, humility. So not only is bhakta is getting a double benefit here, right? Because he's also seeing the names and forms. You can also learn about how the names and forms work. There's no issue there if you're interested in these things. But also, no matter what level you stop at or not stop at, you're always appreciating the one in all, which is Ishvara. Whoever doesn't appreciate your glory isn't because they don't know you, Lord, but because they lack the sensitivity of the mind. That means the mind isn't tuned yet. Just like the sensitivity of a child's mind, as I discussed last week, isn't tuned to appreciate music. To them, it's just mere sounds. Like, Dad, Mom, why are you listening to this? It doesn't make sense. But in only 5 years, they're crazy about it. It's like the best thing ever, you know, when that music, that discovery of music comes. So this means the mind got tuned. It also means don't be disappointed in those whose mind isn't yet tuned. Because some of us are slower, some of us are faster. You know, sometimes we hear this Vedanta knowledge and we're like, wow, this is all making sense. But there's some close members, family members of mine who are not getting this. I wish their minds was tuned in. So we can just say, okay, don't be disappointed. Everyone gets there. It just takes, some take slower, some take longer. Gariyase brahmanaha api adi kartre. You are even the creator of Brahmaji, sitting on a lotus, born of Vishnu's navel. This is the Puranic approach. What is Vedantic approach? The Vedantic approach is Vishnu is the macrocosmic causal body. What is macrocosmic causal body? Total samskaras, total sanchita karma of everything, of every jiva. What is Brahmaji? Macrocosmic subtle body, total mind, all knowledge. What is born out of the causal body? The subtle body. Therefore, Brahmaji is born out of Vishnu's navel. The subtle body comes from the causal body. Jagat Nivasa. You don't live in the universe, Krishna, but the universe lives in you. Tvam adideva puranaha tvamasya vishwasya param nidhanam vetasi vedyam cha param cha dhama tvaya tatam vishwamanantarupa.
You are the first among gods, the one who was there even before, the one who fills up everything. You are the ultimate place of resolution of this world. You are the knower and also what is to be known. And you are the ultimate abode. The world is pervaded by you, O Lord, the one whose forms are endless. He is the one who fills up the entire world and is therefore called Purusha. Purana means the one who was there even before, and the one who continues to be as fresh as he was. The Lord is not only the cause of the Jagat, he is also the resolving place of all that is created. Nidhi yate asmin iti nidhi nidhanam. And he is para, limitless. Just as how in a dream the dreamer is the cause of the dream world and is also its place of resolution, Bhagwan is the one in whom things are ultimately resolved. Param nidhanam. Therefore, Shankara says it is the point of the complete resolution of the entire world. Nidhiyate asmin jagat sarvam maha pralayato. It can be the final dissolution of the creation into its unmanifest form, or it can mean the mukti avastha, either jivan mukti avastha or videha mukti avastha, the place where the jiva resolves. The jivatma is false, so it resolves into its cause. Then Arjuna says further, you are the knower, Veta Asi. From the standpoint of Sakshi Atma, you are the ultimate knower of everything. And from the standpoint of omniscience, Sarva
Nyatva.
Jnanatva, you are the knower of all that can be known. And you are also all that can be known, Vedayam Cha.
Okay, no, thank you, Meena. Okay, so verse 38 says that you are the beginningless first, which everything else depends on for its existence. This is what Arjuna is saying to Krishna. He says you are the Purushaha. And what is Purushaha? Purusha has two terms in the scriptures. The first is the one who pervades, all pervading, obviously referring to Ishvara. The second definition of Purushaha is the one who resides in the body. What is this referring to? One who resides in the body, you tell me.
Consciousness.
Okay, yeah, okay. You can also add that. I would put that towards all pervading. What about from the standpoint of a person?
Is it Jiva?
Jiva, good. What is Jiva?
The individual.
Individual, that means Sukshma Sharira, the mind. So excellent, Rani, Jiva. Okay, Twamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam. You're the ultimate ground into which everything resolves. Meaning, at the time of pralayam, that means the dissolution of the universe, all living beings are resolved into earth. This is how the Vedic scriptures describe it. So what happens, when this big dissolution, when Brahmaji night is coming? So first, everything resolves into earth. We don't know how. Maybe, human beings get blown out by another meteor, like dinosaurs got, blown out. We don't know. But then, so this means the earth becomes the resolving ground for humans, insects, animals, and plants. And then what happens to earth? It resolves into the Panchamahabhuta of water. Water resolves into fire. Fire resolves into air. Air resolves into space. Now, what do we say about space? It's never apart from time. Therefore, space and time are the last ones which resolve into, you tell me.
Purusha.
Purusha, okay, good. I was going to say into Ishvara. And then you can go for Ishvara, Maya, potential, and then Maya into Brahman.
Can we also say unmanifest?
Yeah, Maya. So exactly. So the potential unmanifest. Okay. Veta asi vedyam. So you are the knower of everything. When I say you, this is what Arjuna is describing Bhagavad. So you is Ishvara. What does this mean? You are the knower of everything. It has two standpoints. You are all knowledge. All knowledge, all power. But also the knower, consciousness, the presence in whose presence everything is known, awareness. You're the knowledge principle of the subject and the object, the knower and the known, the experiencer and the experienced, the sentient and the insentient. So this means their respective functions of both the subject and the object, their function borrows from Ishvara's all knowledge, all power. So this means whatever you know, whatever I know, whatever anyone knows, whatever profession you enjoy and go, oh, I'm so good, where is that ultimately resolving? Into the one all knowledge, all power. Therefore, everything is his. Just like in your operating system, what does the operating system do? It borrows resources. It borrows its resources to various applications. Therefore, all applications depend on the one operating system. Param cha dhamma tvaya tatam vishwam ananta rupa. Okay, you are the content of both the subject and the object, as I was just saying earlier. Just as the dreamer is the content of both the subject in the dream and the infinite objects in the dream. So both the subject or the many subjects and the many objects in the dream all depend on the one dreamer. In this way, as I just described, the infinite universe is pervaded by your presence. And this presence is known to every jiva as the self-evident I am. There's not a single individual who doesn't know I am. Vayuryamoghnirvarunashashankaha Prajapatistvam prapita mahascha Namo namastestu sahasrakritvaha Punascha bhuyopi namo namaste.
You are the Lord of air, Lord of death, Lord of fire, Lord of water, presiding deity of the moon, Prajapati, and the ultimate great-grandfather, the Creator. 1,000 repeated salutations to you. Again and again indeed, repeated salutations to you.
So you are the wind, thank you Dave. So you're the wind air. You're Yamaha, you're the motorcycle. No, you're not the motorcycle. Yamaha is the generous principle which removes old to give way to the new. This is a sugar-coated way of saying the Lord of Death. A generous principle. You are the fire, water, and the moon. Now, the logic behind this is all of these names that I just mentioned are all effects or products. And they manifest within the manifest universe. And no effect, no product is ever away from the cause. Do I have my pot here? Hold on. So, for example, this pot, suppose we have different pots of different shapes and sizes. Some are small, some are big. Some are talented pots, some are, just ordinary pots. So this pot, no matter what form it takes, it is never a part, this is called a product or the effect. It is never apart from the very cause which sustains it even right now. And even when this pot breaks, if I drop it, it's going to break in 1,000 pieces or less, and I will no longer call it the name form called pot, but it doesn't still lose the very content that is even true right now, which is the very clay. So therefore, the effect, no matter what condition it presents itself or what time it happens to be, it is always of the one same cause. Okay. And in that same way that I just explained, the jiva, that means you and I, as a relative person, who is also an effect, that means the jiva's mind, which includes every thought that I have about anything at any time, is never separate from cause called Ishvara. So this means even if I say who is Ishvara, that thought is still not apart from Ishvara. Namaha namaha te astu sahasra kritvaha. Knowing all of this, I offer Krishna my namaskara thousands of times, because all nama rupa are sustained by the one same cause. This means without Parameshwaraha, no object can enjoy its existence. Now pot's gone, I'm so talented, I'm so smart, but it entirely depends on the one cause, Parameshwaraha. So this means nothing is outside him. And this means the one cause is in and through all forms in the past, in the present, and in the future that is yet to come, that is in unmanifest mode. Namah purastat atha prishtataste. Namostute sarvata eva sarva. Ananta viryamita vikramastvam. Sarvam samapnoshitatosi sarvaha.
Salutations to you in front, in the front, in the east. Salutations to you at the back in the west. Indeed, salutations to you in all directions. O Lord, the one who is everything. You are the one infinite strength and immeasurable prowess, and you completely pervade everything. Therefore, you are everything.
What is the verse trying to say to us?
That Arjun is now sort of slowly able to assimilate the entire idea of Gita. Earlier, he had some confusions, and now he's able to see Parmeshwar or Bhagwan everywhere. So he is now getting the knowledge firmly in him.
Good. Okay. So I'll extend what Kritika said. So specifically, Arjuna is expressing his reverentiality towards the 5 elements, because he realizes that everything is Parameshwara. Now, specifically, since I said earlier on, we're only ever dealing with names and forms. What are names and forms? 5 elements, which the whole universe is made of. And now he is expressing reverentiality towards all 5 elements. Okay, good, Kritika. Ananta virya mitta vikramahatvam. Bhagavan, your nature is infinite strength, power. So any power, for example, whether it is mental or physical, enjoyed by any jiva, it belongs to Lord's infinite power. Just as a human, or let's just say, just as the power of a human body is borrowed from food. So this means all of the power that you have now, to listen and go, I'm so sharp tonight, that is because of the food that you ate a few hours ago. But food gets its power from where? The sun. The sun gets its power from where? From the existence of hydrogen transforming into helium through the process of fusion. And where is this process getting its power from? From the laws of cause and effect. Because how can you transform hydrogen to fusion without cause and effect? Where is cause and effect getting its power from? Purusha, all knowledge, all power. Where is all knowledge, all power getting its existence from? From the final cause, consciousness. Because how can you have a cause and effect intelligent relationship unless it is conscious? Okay. Sarvam samapnoshi. Okay, so since everything is already the one reality, the notion of traveling somewhere to reach God is meaningless. Suppose they don't have much Vedantic knowledge. How do they start? They start with the notion that I need to reach God. How? Through a meditation, through a particular practice, through a particular, some retreat, maybe going to Peru and drink some ayahuasca or something, or do some kind of a spiritual, I don't know what they do nowadays. After death, what does a person say? Oh, I need to travel to reach God. So the whole life becomes about traveling, all about traveling. Traveling while alive, traveling while dead. Chapter 11 resolves this traveling notion. It weakens it, it removes it. In other words, it shows us there's no question of reaching God because nothing is away from the total. And I happen not to be apart from the total. So how can I, who am not apart from the total, reach or go somewhere to come to the total when I'm already part of the total? Or let's just not even say I'm part of the total, I am the total. Why do the scriptures then say or speak of reaching God?
Could it be removing the notion that I'm separate from God?
Excellent. Okay.
Yes.
Again, for example, the notion of traveling to get there. Right? So this is how we start with this notion. I need to travel with my mind to get there, wherever there is. It could be some enlightened state, it could be God, it could be some heightened state of existence, whatever it is. So this notion is neither a time-based notion, nor is it a space-wise notion. What kind of notion is it, or what kind of distance is it? It is a notional, as Thomas was saying, notional distance. Between what? Between my understanding of reality and the reality. So this means my understanding of reality says one thing, but the reality is something totally different. And where is the space between the misalignment between my understanding of reality and the reality? So what does Vedanta do? It fixes my false notions of reality and aligns it with the reality. So this means the notion is born out of ignorance. If it's a space notion, I have to travel. If it's a time notion, I have to wait. If the jiva continues doing X, like a certain practice that had been prescribed by anyone, then one day in the future, I will know the reality. That's the usual way of, sometimes how it's prescribed. I'll give you a technique, and if you practice this technique for so many years, then one day in the future, you will come in union with the reality, which is nothing wrong with this. It's just preparing the mind, by the way. But what does Vedanta say? You're not away from the reality. Now, how do you remove this notional ignorance or notional ignorance distance?
Knowledge.
Super. Self-knowledge. That means through the Bhagavad Gita teaching, through Upanishads. Tataha asi sarvaha. You are everything. Suppose I say everything is God, and then I say God is everything. Okay, I'll let you think of that different, but it's a subtle difference. Sakheti matva prasabham yad uktam. He Krishna he Yadava he Sakheti. Ajanata mahimanam tavedam. maya pramadat pranyayena vapi yachavaha sartamasat kritosi vihara sayasana bhojaneshu ekodhavapyachyutta tatsam tat kshamaye twamaham aprameyam.
Ignorant of this glory of yours, thinking of you as a near friend, whatever that was said lightly by me as, O Krishna, O Yadava, O friend, out of carelessness or out of intimacy, and further, out of jest, you have been slighted, Achyuta, Krishna, while walking, lying down, sitting and eating, alone or even in public. For all that may I ask pardon of you, the one who cannot be known.
Okay, here Arjuna realizes that Krishna is much more than just a friend, with whom Arjuna has played pranks on, since it also occasionally insulted him while they were friends, while they were growing up. Now Arjuna wants to ask Krishna for forgiveness. This is what Kritika was bringing up last week, forgiveness. Now suppose that Krishna says, I forgive you, Arjuna. Does that necessarily absolve Arjuna from feeling guilty? No. So this means even if I ask for forgiveness, it doesn't guarantee that I will still resolve my own guilt. So at the end of the day, it still depends on my own work to come in terms with what I feel guilty about or what I'm asking forgiveness for. And Arjuna realizes that his dealing with Krishna was inappropriate or impolite, and he didn't give him due credit. And this is not because Arjuna was being disrespectful towards Krishna, but because of Arjuna's ignorance about Krishna's identity. Ava hasartham tat kshamaye tvam aham. So for the sake of fun, I have played silly pranks on you while you were sleeping, while you were sitting, and while you were eating. So please pardon me for such undue treatment, because you are aprameyam, the highest of all. Imagine that your close friend, one day you just realize he's Avatara or she's Avatara of the entire universe. How would you react? Oopsie daisy. Sorry for all of those things that I've said to you. So verse 41 and 42, you can summarize as oopsie daisy. Pitasi lokasya characharasya twamasya pujaschya gurur gariryan natvat samostya bhayadhikah kutonyaha lokatrayepya pratima prabhava.
Lord, the one whose glories are unparalleled, you are the Father of this world, of sentient beings and insentient objects, and you are the most worshipful of it and its first teacher. Even in the three worlds, there is no one equal to you. How can there be another who is superior? Arjuna continues to describe the Lord. You are the cause, the Father, Pita of this world, Asya Loksha, consisting of Kara, things that are moving, and Akara, things that do not move. Or Kara could mean sentient, and Akara then would refer to what is inert. He says further, as the creator of the world, you are the most worshipful Puya. Even though many devatas are worshipped in many different forms of Puya, all worship goes only to Parameshvara. Therefore, he says, you are Puya, the one who deserves to be worshipped, and you are a teacher, Guru. Arjuna adds that Bhagavan is not an ordinary Guru, but the one who is more important, Gariyan, the first teacher, the one who taught the Vedas to even Brahmaji, and is therefore the source of all knowledge.
Pita asi lokasya chara acharasya. So you are the father of the whole. Now in the Vedic tradition, father is never separate from mother. For example, Brahman is father and Maya is mother. Both are inseparable. Vishnu is father and he is always with Lakshmi, who is the mother. in his chest. Brahmaji keeps Saraswati on his tongue. Shiva, half-half. So this means throughout our symbology, we can see that there is no separation between mother and father. Therefore, to worship mother aspect of reality, which includes both sentient and insentient objects, one is also worshiping simultaneously the father and vice versa. Some other schools, what do? They dismiss the mother, that means the relative empirical world. To dismiss the empirical world, that means the mother, what am I doing simultaneously? Dismissing the father. And yet at the same time, I'm trying to connect, I'm trying to unify with the father. Therefore, there is no question of dismissing one single thing in creation, because there's only father and mother, and they're both one from two different standpoints. For this reason, Tvam asya pujaha cha. You are, for the reasons that I described, the one to be worshipped, or the only one that is ever worshipped, since all worship goes to the one, and the highest worthy of worship. And according to our Shastra, accepting namaskara or worship has potential danger of a spiritual downfall. Why would that be? Why would worshiping a guru or worshiping a teacher, why are you actually putting them at risk if they're not careful?
You're propping up their ego.
Excellent, good. So in other words, it potentially, if they're not careful, it reinforces that sense of individuality. This is my knowledge, this is my skill, and so on. Now, since both, because in Indian tradition, of course, the kids will also worship, they will namaskar to their parents. Now, both the parents and the guru cannot stop them. You can't say, stop it. Even though in some, some swamis will say, the first thing, the instruction is, students, do not do namaskara or any of that to me. Just treat me like a normal person. But what do? How do you handle this? You silently and immediately hand over whatever namaskara goes to you to Bhagavan in the background. Because understanding that, yes, thank you very much, but ultimately I understand this is not mine, because I learned this from someone else. Now, why hand over this namaskara to the Lord? The word is Gariyan, because he is, as Nagesh was saying, the Sadguru, the highest guru, superior to all other gurus. Now, what's the logic for this? All gurus, I'm talking about relative gurus now, were students at some point, ordinary students in class. For example, Adi Shankara was a brilliant guru himself, but he learned it from, because he was a shishya at some point, learned it from his guru, Govinda Bhagavad Pada. And Govinda Bhagavad Pada learned it from his guru. And this lineage, whatever subject matter you happen to be talking about, not just Vedanta, it all goes back or resolves into the first guruless guru, the one who was never a student, and that is none other than Ishvara himself. Then, nat tvat samaha asti. No one is equal to you. Matchless, incomparable is your nature, O Lord. Why? Because infinity can never be matched. There's no second infinity. Infinity doesn't exclude anything. Therefore, nothing can compare to infinity, because it is already infinite. Tasmat pranamya pranidhaya kayam prasadaye tvam ahamisham idyam piteva putrasya sakeva sakyuhu priyav priyaya harsideva sodhum.
Therefore, saluting properly, laying down my body, I seek the blessing of you who are the worshipful Lord. O Lord, you should forgive my mistakes as a father would the mistakes of a son, as a friend of a friend, and as a beloved of his beloved.
Okay, so again, here Arjuna feels guilty for belittling Krishna in the past. That means not knowing the implications of his identity. And consequently, Arjuna offers not an ordinary joined palm namaskara, please forgive me, but how? By falling prostrate down to the Lord's feet. So he says, Krishna, forgive my transgression, just as, and then he gives 3 examples, just as a father forgives children's mistakes because he understands their lack of discipline. That means they're in a process of maturity. Today, of course, it's actually much harder to discipline a child because it's a mixture of cultures and internet's always around the corner. So even if you tell your child to stay away from trouble, you just don't know, because other kids can still show them in school porn, right? And then your child, behind closed doors is watching porn, you don't even know it. So one of the ways to deal with this is they sit down as a conversation and you say, what are the potential problems or what are the potential situations that my child could be exposed to? And for example, suppose it's drugs and alcohol. So you educate them, you show them some examples how drugs and alcohol leads to a downfall of the person. And you make sure that they're a concrete example. And then the second example is just as a husband forgives his wife for her omissions and offenses. So one of the ways how to do this, right? Now, how does a husband, or how can a husband forgive his wife? In Vedanta, chapter 13, I'll talk about Pratipaksha Bhavana. This means whenever there's an object of resentment or annoyance, right, or agitation, and that comes to mind, that comes to the mind's attention, then what does the person do? They deliberately use their will to think of thoughts opposite to their negative thoughts. So this means they construct a opposite, directly opposing thought, which reflects in a more positive light in contrast to their negative thought. The reason for this is we're trained as young children. And then the third example is as a friend forgives offenses to another friend. A true friend responds to the person, not to the action. This means I see the person behind the act. Right? I see where they're coming from. They can't help it. They grew up in a childhood that's not so educated, so they can't help themselves. And if I respond to the person's act or behavior, then I tell you it is very hard to be accommodative towards them. Because usually, in Indian culture, it's about, being accommodative, just accommodate people. Now you tell me, how can you be accommodative if all of the focus is on a person's many irresponsible, foolish actions? No way. So this means my focus has to change from the behavior to the person. What is their life story that could be causing them to perform these actions? What is behind this foolishness? What is behind this irrationality? And I work from there. And if I can't see that, then keep in mind, there are many reasons, unknown reasons, that set the stage for this person's actions. And those reasons are beyond me, and they're also beyond this person. Adrishta purvam hrishitosmi drishtva bhayena cha pravyatitam manome tadeva me darshaya deva rupam prasida devesha jagannivasa.
So, O Lord, seeing what was not seen hitherto, I am happy, and yet my mind is afflicted with fear also. Please show me only that original form. Be pleased, O Lord of the gods, the one in whom the world exists.
So here Arjuna is feeling 2 emotions simultaneously. First of all, he feels blessed for being given this Divya Chakshuhu directly by Bhagavad. Of course, you're going to feel blessed because, you're having this Vishwarupa experience. It's an amazing vision. But also, Arjuna is experiencing discomfort. Why? Because he's seeing the sight of his dear ones entering the Lord's mouth, being chewed. Suppose you have mixed feelings about something. What does this imply?
Conflict.
Still some confusion in Arjun's mind. And he's still going topsy-turvy. Sometimes he understands the knowledge that Krishnji is giving him.
Yeah.
And he's not actually fully assimilated it. So he gets confused in the next moment.
Okay, good. In Arjuna's case, specifically, the mind is not prepared, not 100% qualified to receive this vision. It's kind of like traveling to a new country, on a holiday. What do we usually say? Oh, everyone's so friendly. Every country you go to, everyone's so friendly. But what happens when the honeymoon's over and suppose you go extended stay, right? The COVID hits and then you got to stay there for a while and then you kind of get down with the locals. you know, same psychological behaviors as back in my hometown. Why is that? So once the emotional high is over, then since I still carry my likes and dislikes, they start to overshadow that emotion. That means they come to fruition now. So this means my biases eventually override that innocent enjoyment of what is. That honeymoon period is great, I get it. You know, everything's like glorious and so shiny. Everything is glittering and so bright. And it's how you feel like a child, like, wow, everyone's so friendly, this is great. I want to move into this country. And then slowly, one dislike comes. Oh, you know, their skin color is not according to my liking. Oh, you know, they're walking too fast. Oh, speaking like this. Oh, they smell and so on. So this means my likes and dislikes start to overshadow now the reality, and I'm back at the same place as back in my hometown. So therefore, the only way to hold this vision, that means to sustain this knowledge, is through the natural process of growth. And what is this growth process? Self-inquiry into every thought, brick by brick. So this means we're not letting anything slip, because to let anything slip is to imply it's going to come back in the future and it's going to subtract from that honeymoon experience, from that vision of what is. So this means address it when it does come, instead of putting it aside. In fact, when it does come, that is the absolute best time to address anything. Prasida devesha jagat nivasa. So be gracious unto me, Lord, the one in whom the whole universe rests, because my mind can no longer bear this mixed state of emotions. It needs more work on itself, more self-inquiry. Just like there's a nice story when Krishna ate some mud, and then Yashoda, his mother, she scolded him and said, "Open your mouth." And then Krishna opens the mouth. And then what does Yashoda see inside the mouth? Vishwarupa cosmos. And then she scolds him, "No, close your mouth. Close your mouth." Now it looks like a command, like close your mouth. But it's actually coming out of fear, because her mind is not ready to receive the Vishwarupa vision. Therefore, the mind is yet unqualified. Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam ichchami tvam drashtumaham tathaiva te naiva rupena chaturbhuyena sahasrabhaho bhava vishwamurte.
So too, I wish to see you as one with a crown, a mace and a disc in hand, Lord of 1,000 arms, the one who's in the form of the world. May you become that form alone, which has 4 hands. This is a popular form in which Lord Vishnu is worshipped. He is described repeatedly in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavata, and other Puranas as having 4 hands. In one, a conch, shankha; in another, a disc, chakra; in the third, a mace, gada; and the fourth offers protection. Arjuna wants to see this form that people worship. Arjuna must also have worshipped that form. He asks Krishna to appear in that particular form before he returns to the form of Arjuna's friend. He says, similarly, I want to see you also as Kriti, the one who has a crown, as Gadi, that is the one who has a mace, and as Chakrahasta, the one who has a disc in his hands.
Continue.
Chakra is for destroying all kamas and krodhas. The enemy's Shankha stands for the Veda, and it beckons people to come to him. Kama and krodha may stand in your way, not allowing you to accomplish it. Therefore, the same grace of Ishvara will destroy kama and krodha using his chakra. The gada is for the destruction of the hankara. All this you can accomplish when you surrender to me.
I'm not going to add commentaries here, but basically, because it's self-explanatory. So here Arjuna just concludes his reverentiality into Bhagavan. So far, verse 35 to 45, Arjuna expresses appreciation of Vishwarupa. Thus he surrenders to the feet of the Lord. Then Arjuna's mind is not sufficiently qualified to withstand this Vishwarupa Darshana. This we have also seen. And because, why? Because his vasanas are categorizing pairs of opposites. I want to see birth, I don't want to see death. And the question is how to qualify the mind. Like how to qualify, if Arjuna were to ask, how do I qualify my mind? Now let's bring it down to earth. One of the ways is to start with Ekarupa Ishvara. Ekarupa Ishvara is a personal deity, the one with whom you feel close with. For some of us, it's Ganesha. For some of us, it's nature. For some of us, it's our children, whatever it is. So this means we can start with something graspable, something that we can relate to, something that inspires us. And then we see Ishvara in that. And then we can expand our vision slowly to include the world. That's one of the ways. Now, Bhagavan speaks. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Prasanena Tavarjunedam Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat Tejo Mayam Vishwamananta Adyam Yanme Twadanyena Nadrishta Purvam.
Arjuna, by me who is pleased, this cosmic form is shown to you through my power, a form which is limitless, full of brilliance, includes everything, and is without end. That form of mine was never before seen by anyone other than you.
Okay, continue.
This cosmic form was shown to Arjuna by the power of Bhagavan's Maya. It was a form that was all brilliance. Tuja Maya included everything, Vishwa, with no end, Ananta. And his original form, Adya, the one into which all the other forms have flown. The cosmos came first, and within it, there are many other forms constantly being born. It was never seen before, Nadrishta Puram, by anyone except you, Devat Anena, says Bhagavan to Arjuna. How did he manage to see this? Arjuna managed to see this form because of the grace of Bhagavan. Therefore, Bhagavan says, on account of my power, Atma Yogat, I have shown you this effulgent form and it includes every form because I am pleased with you.
I've shown this Vishwarupa because, Arjuna, you asked. And now I've taken away this Vishwarupa because, Arjuna, you asked. In other words, I'm the karma paladata, the giver of results of Jiva's actions. I give whatever I am asked, sincerely. Maya prasanena tava Arjuna idam. So my macrocosmic subtle body, that is my total mind, in other words known as Hiranyagarbha, has been shown because of my Maya Shakti. That means I've shown you my total mind. If I look into just your mind, what will I find? Thoughts related to just you. If you look into my mind, you will only find thoughts related to Andre. But what is Arjuna? Tapping into all, that means all minds, all knowledge. Now also Arjuna, says Krishna, I am pleased with your sincerity and your desire to know. For that reason alone, you are a deserving candidate. And for that reason, I will give you my Divya Chakshuhu. However, the more important part is, Arjuna, even the Lord himself cannot clean up your own mind. I've given you a Divya Chakshuhu, but what happened? Your own likes and dislikes still overpowered this gift. This means no one can save you except you yourself. This means even the limitless Lord himself cannot clean up your own mind. This means it is all up to you. Because you have free will, no one has the right to do it for you. This means only you can clean up your own mind. And then nobody else has seen this before. It's a figurative expression. It's not literal, because the fact is, who else has seen Vishwarupa Darshanam? Sanjaya, because he's reporting this whole vision, and I said it earlier, Yashoda. I want to bring some prominent points of verse 36 said, nothing is out of place in this world. Everything is perfect. Now, the moment I say this, what's the man going to now think? No, it's not. But what do I really mean when I say everything is already perfect?
It means that according to all the laws and orders that things are perfect. Like if a bird poos on your head, then it's like the biology of the bird and it's the gravity that's caused that. So it's unfortunate, but it's also perfect.
Yeah, good, excellent. So in other words, we're not talking about the relative we're talking about there's a perfect one-to-one ratio between cause and effect. In that sense, everything is going exactly as it's supposed to go. Because we understand this predictability of laws and orders, it is the only reason why you plan your life. Think about this. Why do you plan your life? Because you know by doing a certain action, it's going to bring a certain result in the future. You ask a pianist, why are you practicing for 5 hours a day? What's the pianist going to say? Because in 30 years, I'm going to be a grandmaster. So this means there is an inherent knowledge, inherent trust in the law and order that is present right now, that is still going to be the same law and order in 30 years from now. Therefore, what do? I do an appropriate action that is going to bring me a result in 30 years. So this means we all inherently have trust in this law and order of predictability. Otherwise, nobody would be planning your life. You'll be like, what's the point? It's all unpredictable. 11.37 is saying that what we understand is what we value, and what we value is what we pay attention to. So whatever you understand about yourself, about the world, it's exactly what you value. That means it's where you place your eyes on, what books you read. Okay, and then 11.46, finally, it spoke about Krishna's 4 hands analogy. Okay, what does the 4 hands represent? Except the conch and the wheel and etc. What else do the 4 hands represent? You tell me. Think about the 4 Purusharthas, 4 Vedas. So the 4 hands represent hand 1, Dharma, morality, ethics. Hand 2, Artha, wealth, security. Hand 3, Kama. This means power, comfort, and just general fame, like having a name and in the society. What is moksha? This is the 4th hand. What is 4th in Sanskrit? Turiya. What is the 4th hand? The freedom from the need to repeat the first 3. Every life, you're like, hey, hello, new people, which I will now call parents. In this life, I will exercise Dharma. Next life, hello, new people, which I will call new parents. In this life, I will exercise a mixture of Dharma, Kama, and Artha. 50 lifetimes later, hello, new people. In this life, I will exercise 5% of Dharma, 1% of Artha, and 98% of Kama. What is moksha? The freedom from the need to repeat the first 3. And what do the first 3 represent? 3 gunas. And then what about the 4 hands? Hand 1, it said conch. What does a conch mean? What is a conch? You blow. What does blowing imply? You tell me.
Makes noise.
Okay, what does the noise do? When your dog makes noise, what do you do? Do you get does he get your attention?
Communication. You communicate with.
Okay. So
it draws attention.
Good. It draws attention to what? Parameshwaraha. In other words, it beacons us to recognize the presence of Ishvara. Then the wheel, the chakra, it is the caution from wise people saying, hey, do not fall for a dharmic path. It seems pleasant, but in the long run, it's not serving you. So it's a chakra, a warning. I send my message over there. Hey, careful. You're steering the wrong way. Come back. What is the mace? I discussed last week. Boing. Immediate result of irresponsibility. And the lotus, it is to bless us moksha. For what? Both devotion and knowledge. Moksha is not just knowledge, it is also devotion. Because just knowledge is intellectual. It is only actualized when there's devotion. And finally, you tell me, what is the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna? What is this symbolism? Because we speak about Krishna, Arjuna. What is the symbolism?
Krishna is Ishvara, Arjuna is Jiva.
Good. Okay, 100% correct. So it is an eternal and intimate relation between the finite individual called Jiva and the infinite Parameshwaraha. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha Sarve santu niramayaha. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.